Hey, Humanity Church, it's Pastor Nathan. Hope that you're having a great week. Hey, last Sunday we let you know that we as a leadership team here at Humanity Church have come up with a strategy for reopening our community. And we wanted to let you know exactly what that's going to look like. We do not feel a rush to reopen. We know that many churches are reopening on May 31st, and we simply feel like that is a date that we are not prepared for. And so we are working directly with CDC, with local health departments, faith-based organizations, as well as local officials to make sure that we have a strategy that is both healthy and will support our community moving forward. We also want to let you know that we do not see this as a political conversation. It has been unfortunate that so many pastors and faith-based organizations have turned this into a religious liberties conversation, and we simply do not see it as that. It would be one thing if the churches were not allowed to meet and everyone else was, but that's not the case. So it's not a religious liberties conversation. And while others have used this as an opportunity to slam our governor, to make fun of health departments, and to overrun local officials, we do not and will never take that position. We see it as our role to pray for wisdom and to work alongside those who God has placed in government positions. However, we have been reading reports that recent projections have said that there could be upwards of 145,000 deaths of despair, meaning deaths not related to a disease or a virus, but related to things like substance abuse, depression, anxiety, domestic violence, or even suicide. And we see us as the church at the forefront of the battle for spiritual and mental and emotional health. We also recognize that gathering together physically is absolutely critical in the journey of finding health. That gathering together online has always been second best, but it will never replace being together with one another. There's a reason why isolation is actually considered a punishment in the Department of Justice. And so we feel it absolutely critical to get ourselves back to a place where we can reopen in a healthy fashion. So here's our plan. On May 31st, we will not be opening our doors to the general public. We will, however, be inviting our key leaders back to prepare their spaces and to start training for the days ahead when we do reopen. We will not be having children's ministry during that time. It will simply be a space for them to come and start preparing. Then on June 7th, we'll be inviting back our community group leaders as well as our key volunteers for two purposes. One, to give us some people to practice these new procedures on, but then also to train them in how to train others to follow these really important practices and procedures to assure the health of our community. Then on June 14th, we'll be inviting back all volunteers and their family, again, to start training and preparing for when we do reopen. And we want people to be able to train and to have a space to prepare for that, to not just fully reopen, but to really slowly and progressively reopen. Because when we do reopen, we don't want to have people fumbling with thermometers or not knowing where hand sanitizing stations are. We want to make sure people are prepared to support our community as we come back. So on June 21st, which is Father's Day, we'll be back together open here at the gathering. So when we do reopen, you'll notice some new procedures here at the gathering. First off, we'll require that every single person over the age of 2 years old wear a mask while in the gathering. Now, you should have a mask by now, but if for some reason you don't, or if you forgot yours at home, we'll have masks here available. Also, we'll be taking your temperature of every single person all the way from babies up to grandma and grandpa when you come into the building. And we are not gonna have you put anything in your mouth. You're not gonna have to put it anywhere else. We do have infrared thermometers that can take your temperature simply by scanning your head in about a second. And we'll keep that confidential, but we're gonna ask that anyone that has a temperature over 99 degrees enjoy the gathering from home, again, simply to assure a safe and healthy space for our community. Next, we will be asking you to follow physical distancing while in the building, meaning that we're going to ask you to stay 6 feet apart from other households. Now, we are calling it physically distancing, not social distancing, because we want you to be social. But the great thing is we have a giant 450-seat auditorium that you can easily distance yourself from one another, but still have that amazing experience of gathering together and growing with one another in the same location. We'll also be having hand sanitizing stations all throughout the gathering so you can keep yourself sanitized as much as you need while you're here. We won't be passing around offering buckets, or we won't be handing out papers. There will be no coffee or pastries. The lobby will be closed other than use of bathrooms. And so it'll give you a sense that, hey, everything is staying clean and everything is staying healthy with that. We'll also be having teams that will be deep cleaning the entire facility every single week to make sure that this place stays clean. We also want to ask that if you have been sick at any point, that you do a voluntary 14-day quarantine, meaning that you stay home and enjoy the gathering online for at least 2 weeks. Again, this will make sure that everyone that is here live in our gathering can stay as healthy as possible. Now, if you fall into a high-risk category, we want you to make discerning and wise decisions about whether or not this is time for you to come back. We are not doctors, so we cannot make recommendations. We cannot put restrictions in place, but we want you to make that decision. And if you do decide to come back and want to stay in a more of a secluded space, we have that available for you. Also, if you feel like this is not the time for you to come back for you or your family, maybe due to health concerns or your own personal reservations, we want to let you know that you will never be treated like a second-class citizen. We're not going to make this an issue of having enough faith or believing that God's big enough. We don't see it like that, and we get that every single person needs to make this decision for themselves and what's best for specifically their family. And so we're going to have the same amazing online experience that we've been having for the last 10, 11 weeks, and we want to invite you to still continue to gather there with us, and it won't be a problem for us. We do know there will be a day where we all will gather together, that online cannot replace the experience of being together and worshiping. But if this time isn't right for you, we totally get it. Hey, we want to let you know that this has been a very divisive conversation on the internet and in every single community. Some families are divided against each other. Some individuals are divided internally. And I'm gonna ask that we come together and do two things during this season. One is that you would trust that we as a leadership have taken every step necessary to create the healthiest possible environment for our community. That we've been working with the CDC, we've been working with local elected officials, we've been working with the health department, we've also been working with virologists and other experts in the field that lets us know, hey, this is the best way to reopen. We've even connected to churches in other states who have not had outbreaks that have reopened and letting us know, hey, here's what we're doing. And so we're going to ask that you just trust that we're not flippantly going into a reopening during this season. The other thing I'm going to ask is that you not vilify one another. That if you feel like, hey, we need to open faster, that a month is way too long, that you would not look at those who need some more time and say, hey, you don't have any faith, or you don't believe God's big enough. For those of you who feel like, man, this is too fast, that this is not where we should be, I'm gonna ask that you not look at those who really feel the need to get back into community and get back into a space where they can gather with one another as wanting to bring harm on people or not really trusting in science. Let's not do that to one another during this season. Whatever you need to do, we totally get it. And we're also gonna ask that during this season that you just gather, that whether that's online or in person, that we would still, that's the most important thing. Lift up the name of Jesus, come together and worship, and that would be a space where we can connect to one another. Hey, we also want to let you know that if you have any questions or concerns, that we want you to ask us. We would much rather have you come to us with big or small questions or concerns rather than allow it to fester inside of you or to make up maybe things about how we've decided things and why we're making the decisions that we're making. So you can either direct message us on Facebook or Instagram. You can email us info@humanitychurch.com, or you can call us 909-766-8160. Thank you, and God bless.